Some moments are destined to etch themselves into the fabric of memory, haunting us for an eternity. They cling like haunting whispers, silent yet ominously ever looming. 2 years have passed since that fateful day. 2 years since everything was irreparably shattered. What began as an ordinary day at the beach with Daniel, my husband's son from a previous life, spiraled into an unexpected whirlwind of chaos and emotion. Andrew, my husband, was once again nowhere to be found, his relentless pursuit of work overshadowing our very existence. This solitude had morphed into a haunting presence, yet that day crackled with an unsettling energy that felt utterly extraordinary. In those fleeting moments, we discovered our sanctuary, enveloped in the sun's searing embrace, which felt almost overwhelming. I sank into the silence, finally liberated from the chaos that surrounded me, and called out to Daniel, my voice steady yet urgent, asking him to help adjust the beach chair. I leaned forward, driven by an unwavering resolve, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Although he is not my biological son, I have dedicated my entire being to raising him, treating him as if he were my own. What drives me to make this choice? At first, it seemed inconsequential, as his hands guided me through the steps. Yet, in the aftermath, the weight of that moment crashed down upon me, revealing its true significance. His presence plunged into the abyss, slipping away in shadows, and I made the agonizing decision to remain a silent witness. What dark force lies behind this? Why didn't I stop him? I firmly believe that you hold the key to understanding the intricate network of your family. Yet, there exists a singular moment that holds the power to shatter everything. On that beach, an event irrevocably altered my life, etching itself into the core of my existence. Andrew and I had endured the trials of marriage for over 15 tumultuous years. To the outside world, we are the perfect couple, living in a picturesque home, raising seemingly flawless children, and basking in the glow of a life that appears unwaveringly stable. Yet, the cracks lie concealed in the however. Those who dare to venture within the boundaries will uncover the hidden cracks everywhere. On weekends and holidays, I clung to the fragile hope that his grueling hours and unwavering dedication were a desperate quest for a brighter future for our family. Yet, as time relentlessly marches on, that story begins to unravel, fraying at the edges. What value does a home hold if it stands empty? Echoing with the ghosts of what once was. Upon his return home, I dissolved into the shadows, a haunting echo in the depths of his presence. He hardly acknowledged my presence, as if I were a ghost haunting the edges of his reality. He ceased to inquire about my feelings, dreams, and needs. Our conversations dwindled to mere fragments, dominated by the weight of bills, groceries, and the relentless demands of the children. He cherished Daniel and his younger sister, Isabella, yet, amidst their gathering, he seemed to embody a mere specter, occupying the space while his heart was ensnared in a tempest of longing, forever tethered to a distant realm of shadows and unfulfilled desires. I sat at the table, heart racing, locked in a tense gaze with him, questioning if he even sensed my presence that fateful morning. I stood frozen in the kitchen as Andrew rushed out the door, his movements frantic. He grabbed his briefcase with urgency, pressed a lingering kiss to the crown of Isabella, his head, and shot me a fleeting glance, a silent apology hanging heavy in the air between us. I'm sorry, Claire, but I can't possibly join you today. A tense situation erupted at the workplace, and I chose to hold back, refusing to engage in the escalating conflict. I nodded, a reflexive gesture, but my throat constricted, a visceral reaction to the weight of the moment. I forced myself to confront the truth. It was absolutely necessary. Daniel, in that pivotal moment, Daniel, newly turned 18, towered above with a slender frame, casting a shadow that both inspired and challenged me, igniting a fierce desire for independence as I fought to carve my own path. His brown eyes, a haunting reflection of his father's mythic, unspoken emotion, carried an unsettling gentleness in his expression. He remained eerily silent, even as I disclosed the chilling truth that it would be just the two of us. He appeared to have hardened to his father's relentless absences, his indifferent shrug a chilling testament to the emotional void that had taken root within him. He clutched the bags with a fierce determination and led me to the vehicle. As we drove, I couldn't help but observe him in the passenger seat, earphones firmly in place, his gaze fixed out the window, lost in a world of his own like so many restless teenagers. A smile slowly emerged, a flicker of light in the shadows of uncertainty. He was maturing at an alarming pace, and at times I was gripped by the haunting thought that I might just blink and lose him to the abyss of time forever. The journey to the coastline stretched on like an unyielding nightmare. My thoughts spiraled back to Andrew, to the searing warmth we had once shared, now a distant memory, at long last. We arrived at our destination, where Daniel stepped forward, his hand reaching out to assist in carrying the bags to a secluded spot by the water's edge. The tension thick in the air. I meticulously folded the towels, my heart racing as he struggled to set up the umbrella. The tension in the air palpable. A sudden, overwhelming urge to engage in conversation with him has gripped me, leaving me in a state of confusion. Was it his role as my sole companion that drew me in? Or was it simply my desperate need for a willing ear that compelled me to reach out? Stepping outside unleashes a surge of exhilaration, a pulse with a pulse of adrenaline coursing through every fiber, and a smile. As he nodded, his fingers anxiously swept his hair with a desperate grace. Indeed, Mother, it is quite delightful. I collapsed onto the towel, the sun's fierce rays searing into my skin, and I remained frozen in that moment. Caught between tranquility and the impending storm, I seized a moment of reprieve, desperately attempting to lift the crushing burden of the past few years. If only for a fleeting hour, the sun blazed with an intensity that matched my turmoil, and I turned to Daniel, my heart racing. Unspoken, I asked, "Could you please assist me with my voice remained unwavering. Despite a storm raging within my chest, I lay down, eyes shut tight, as he hesitated while setting up the towels. Igniting a fire within me, the heat of his touch intensified. He fidgeted nervously while passing me sunscreen. Descending lower, he paused, unsure how to help in a moment of palpable tension. I stood frozen, paralyzed by the weight of my decision. As he moved forward without hesitation, I couldn't move. I lay back, my eyes locked on the towel, bracing myself for the storm that was about to unfold. The initial touch was electric, charged with an intensity that shivered through my spine. His hands trembled, desperate to protect me from any hint of pain that might intrude. A smile flickered across my lips, igniting a torrent of memories from his childhood, when he would clutch my hand with fierce determination as we traversed the chaotic streets together. In those days, his hands were so small that I could exert a bit more pressure, a subtle yet powerful reminder of the fragility of his existence. I delivered the message to him, my voice barely above a whisper, and it was undeniably satisfactory. He listened with unwavering focus, and he listened intently, his hands pulsing with an intensity that electrified the air between us, with each stroke of oil on my shoulders. The weight of the truth crashed down on me, a brutal reminder of the years that had passed since anyone dared to touch me. The realization clawed at my insides, raw and unrelenting. Yet, I quickly felt his hands sliding down with an intensity that sent shivers along the arch of my back. My breath hitched in my throat, and as I parted my lips to respond, an overwhelming silence engulfed me, leaving me utterly speechless. I clung to the notion that it was absolutely acceptable. He asserted that he was simply extending a hand, suggesting that I was lost in my own delusions. But I realized I was my hat. His hands lingered perilously close to the edge of my towel, a palpable tension crackling in the air as I sensed his inner turmoil. A tempest of emotions surged within me. Yet instead of halting him, I found myself responding, "Thanks for your help. That's enough." The weight of my words hung in the air, charged with unspoken tension. The words lingered ominously in the air, and the instant they escaped my lips, I felt the weight of their irrevocable truth. Daniel stood frozen, the air thick with tension, as I clenched my eyes shut, my heart racing, painfully aware of his hands lingering in a territory that felt unmistakably wrong. My heart pounded wildly, a desperate drumbeat echoing in the silence, as if he could feel the urgency of its frantic rhythm. A fierce urge surged within me to rise, to command him to halt, but I remained frozen, my willpower teetering on the edge of a precipice of collapse as I watched it unfold. Even now, I am consumed by a tumultuous storm of doubt, wrestling with the haunting questions that linger about the motives driving my every choice. Was it the crushing weight of loneliness that propelled me forward, or perhaps an all-consuming desperation for validation, no matter the moral cost? Or was it an overwhelming sense of indifference that dictated my every choice? On that fateful day by the shore, a cataclysmic fracture tore through my very soul, forever transforming the core of my existence. Upon revisiting the subject, I must confront the undeniable truth that after that fateful day at the beach, a profound and unsettling transformation unfolded, one that I could not ignore. The emotions surged within me, the sights loomed large, and Daniel's piercing gaze held a weight that was anything but fleeting. They displayed an unyielding resolve. With every glance we exchanged, an electric tension crackled between us, igniting a fierce transformation within him, an indescribable essence that I dared not name, yet found utterly impossible to ignore. I found myself drawn back repeatedly to the charged moments we shared, the way he hung in the air like a storm about to break, and the electric tension that surged through my very being. I despised myself for it, consumed by a seething resentment towards him for igniting such tortuous emotions about my stepson. Andrew remained blissfully ignorant. Oblivious to the storm brewing around them, he stumbled into the house late, as was his relentless habit, his tie hanging askew and his face etched with the weight of exhaustion. He pressed his lips to my cheek, a gesture steeped in the weight of routine, a haunting echo of what had once burned brightly after a long, grueling day. I posed my question, a flicker of hope igniting within me for a meaningful exchange, but he merely grunted, his indifference palpable, as he turned away and strode toward the living room, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. The house radiated an unsettling calm, yet inside me, a tempest of thoughts roared violently. My mind was engulfed by haunting reflections of Daniel, his hands gripping my very soul, and the searing intensity of his gaze, an indelible mark etched in my thoughts. A wave of realization crashed over me, the weight of my emotions pressing down like a storm ready to unleash its fury. I understood, with chilling clarity, that I had to sever this dangerous connection before it spiraled into chaos, before it consumed everything in its path. Yet, a shadowed, more solitary part of me ached to cling to it, yearning for the attention, the touch, and the electrifying sensation of being truly recognized. As the days dragged on, Daniel's silence hung in the air, heavy and oppressive, resonating with an unspoken tension that screamed for attention. He did not simply slip away from my grasp. Instead, it felt as though he loomed ominously in the shadows, a constant presence that sent shivers down the spine. His gaze pierced through the dim light as I cooked, cleaned, or sat in solitude on the couch at night, and I allowed the tension to build, letting it unfold in a way that felt almost electric. I let him proceed without interruption. I struggled to control my impulses, constantly on the verge of chaos. Thus, the following weekend arrived, engulfed in a stifling heat that rendered the home a suffocating prison. Andrew had embarked on a fateful journey to attend to one last vessel, casting Daniel and me into the depths of solitude once more. I implored him to consider returning to the beach, just the two of us, where the waves whispered secrets and the air crackled with unspoken tension. A whirlwind of uncertainty swirled within me, leaving me questioning the very essence of my decision to make this audacious proposal. Perhaps I clung to the desperate hope that venturing into the wild would ignite a spark within me, casting light upon the shadows of my mind. Perhaps I longed to challenge my limits and discover if I could unravel everything. This time, the journey erupted with a tumultuous intensity. Daniel, defying the chaos around him, made the bold decision to forego his headphones. He sat frozen, his gaze locked onto the tumultuous scene beyond the glass, his knee trembling with an electric, uncontainable energy. A powerful urge surged within me, a desperate need to shatter the suffocating silence with words, any words, no matter how fleeting or fragile. Yet, with each desperate attempt to articulate my thoughts, the words lodged themselves like jagged stones in my throat, suffocating my voice. As I stepped onto the sandy shore, a chilling silence enveloped me, revealing a beach that lay eerily deserted. The ocean's vivid blue surged around me, a powerful force. While the breeze whipped against my skin with an urgent intensity, I meticulously rearranged the towels, my heart racing as I recalled the countless times I had done this before. With Daniel by my side, his presence both a comfort and a reminder of the chaos that loomed just beneath the surface. I never asked him to apply oil on my back. Instead, I clung to my position, eyes squeezed shut, desperately feigning a semblance of calm amidst the storm brewing within. Yet, even with my eyes closed, the suffocating intensity of his gaze bore down on me, igniting a storm of dread within. His gaze bore into me with an intensity that was impossible to ignore. The true turning point erupted in the aftermath of that moment. That fateful afternoon, we made the bold decision to cleanse ourselves under the beach showers. A final ritual before our imminent departure. The desperate goal was to swiftly strip away the relentless sand that clung to our skin like a suffocating shroud. Yet, an unimaginable event erupted as we stepped into the showers. Daniel was the first to plunge into the water, feeling it crash down his back in a tumultuous torrent. As I approached, a fleeting shadow of him flickered at the edge of my vision, igniting a surge of anticipation before I finally stepped into the charged atmosphere of his presence. An overwhelming compulsion surged within me, compelling me to strip away my defenses and join him, the water crashing against my skin like a fierce embrace. Daniel's gaze pierced through me, his face a canvas of sheer disbelief. I am engulfed in a tumultuous struggle, torn between sheer astonishment, a haunting uncertainty, or perhaps something far more profound lurking beneath the surface. Yet, he made the agonizing decision to remain silent. I caught a brief, electrifying glimpse of him. With a piercing gaze, she scrutinized him intently and proclaimed, You should definitely consider removing your shorts too. Thorough rinsing is absolutely crucial. Doubt engulfs me, relentlessly probing the depths of my motives to reveal this truth. Perhaps I sought to establish my supremacy or to halt the relentless tide of events that threatened to engulf us. In that moment, I found myself scrutinizing not only him, but also the depths of my soul. He paused, a storm of uncertainty brewing within him, before surrendering to the moment. As he slipped off his shoes, the world around us faded into oblivion. We were engulfed in the water, the relentless rain pouring down, drowning out everything but the raw intensity of our emotions. I turned my eyes away from him, my voice trembling as I desperately pleaded for assistance with my aching back. He surrendered, his hands trembling with a familiar tenderness that echoed the weight of unspoken emotions. Yet, the palpable tension that crackled in the air between us was utterly inescapable. As his hand grazed my waist, a jolt of electricity surged through me. The air thickened with tension, and the relentless rush of the water drowned out every other sound. In that moment, I could have chosen to turn away and walk out. In that fleeting moment, I could have grasped the urgency. But instead, as the torrent of water cascaded down, I moved closer, the chill biting into my fevered skin. I seized his hands, forcefully directing them to my shoulders, then lower, until the atmosphere grew heavy with unspoken tension. His grip tightened, a fierce acknowledgement that sent a shiver down my spine. and I leaned into him, the space between us evaporating into an electric tension. It was not gentle or gradual. It was a desperate moment, fierce and ephemeral, before the relentless water swept it all into oblivion. It was a fleeting moment, shrouded in a thick fog of urgency, isolation, and an overwhelming, indescribable emotion. It struck with an intensity that was anything but gentle or gradual. The situation was time-sensitive, charged with intensity, yet marred by imperfections. And still, I stood helpless to stop it. A deep sense of reluctance gripped me, compelling me to halt any further action. As it reached its climax, we remained frozen in place, the relentless water cascading over us, erasing the evidence but leaving the stark truth untouched. He grasped me tightly, the sensation igniting a fire within, a feeling so foreign after the endless stretch of time apart. I mirrored his intensity, my heart racing in response. In the haunting aftermath, we stood shrouded in an oppressive silence, our bodies trembling as we dried off, the weight of what had transpired heavy in the air. In a tense silence, we hastily collected our belongings, urgency coursing through us as we rushed back to the car. I observed Daniel from the sidelines, his face illuminated with an unsettling glow, every movement rigid and tense, as if he were caught in a storm of emotions. I realized with a crushing weight that I had irrevocably shattered everything around me. We had crossed an unforgiving frontier, and for the first time in years, a surge of exhilaration electrified my veins. The voyage back commenced in a heavy, suffocating silence, thick with unspoken tension. The vehicle loomed over us, its grip suffocating, as if the air itself conspired to crush us beneath its relentless pressure. With a vice-like grip on the steering wheel, I zeroed in on the treacherous road ahead, every nerve in my body electrified with anticipation. Yet my mind was a tempest of turmoil. Daniel's presence clung to me like a shadow. His hands, his body, the heavy burden of our recent choices suffocating the air around us. I couldn't help but steal furtive glances at him in the passenger seat, my heart racing with every stolen moment. He remained rigid, his gaze fixed on the window, his complexion flushed and jaw clenched with tension. In a shocking twist that left the crowd breathless, he unleashed his words with a force that reverberated through the air. "Mom," he breathed, his voice trembling, a fragile thread woven with doubt. I averted my gaze from him, a storm of emotions raging within me. Though I could not reply, I caught wind of his remarks regarding the recent event, and in that instant, my heart thundered in my chest as I contemplated the perilous choice of feigning ignorance and dismissing it all. The subject shifted, but feigning ignorance was a lost cause, especially given the weight of our actions that loomed over us like a dark cloud. I gasped for air, my voice trembling as I uttered, "I do not know." That was the harsh truth, or at least the closest echo of it. Shadows engulfed me as I grappled with the chaotic events that had transpired and the hidden motives lurking beneath the surface. All I grasped was that everything had irrevocably changed. Our silence hung heavy in the air as we finally approached the driveway. I switched off the engine, yet an oppressive silence enveloped us, and neither of us dared to move. Daniel finally turned his gaze toward me, truly piercing through my facade. And in that moment, I felt a chilling dread surge within me as I glimpsed the turmoil swirling in his eyes. It was not mere confusion, nor guilt, nor even shame that gripped the heart, but an overwhelming, visceral longing that clawed at the very soul. "For how long have you bottled up these tumultuous emotions inside you?" His words aimed to send a shiver down my spine, as the same haunting thoughts had consumed me. I gazed at him, and an unbearable shattering echoed within me. I remarked, "Perhaps longer than I ever dared to wish for." In the suffocating stillness of the night, we stood frozen in silence, grappling with the agonizing choice of retreating indoors to erase the haunting incident from our minds and don the fragile mask of normalcy. Yet, Daniel harbored different aspirations. Just before I opened the door, he leaned in, his breath quickening. and pressed his lips against mine with an urgency that sent shockwaves through my very core. Initially, there was a subtle hint of tenderness, a gentle touch that suggested a more profound connection. He appeared tense, as if the mere notion of my disengagement troubled him. Yet I steadfastly maintained my position. I let him kiss me, reciprocating the gesture, and then I was overwhelmed by a torrent of emotion, caught between the crushing loneliness of years spent in neglect and the fierce intensity of Daniel's gaze, a presence I had long yearned for. I yielded to the raw intensity of the moment just beyond our doorstep. Daniel gave a brief, awkward hug of support, his hands roaming over my body with an undeniable sense of possession, as if they were fated to linger there forever. After years of numbness, an electrifying surge of vitality coursed through me, igniting a fierce longing and a deep, undeniable recognition of my worth that threatened to consume me. Nothing else mattered in that moment, the duration of our connection slipping through my fingers like sand. Yet, as fate would have it, we were drawn back inside, the weight of the world pressing upon us. The memory of our walk to the door is a shadowy echo, yet the heat of his hand gripping mine ignites a fire within me, and the suffocating silence crackles with the weight of unvoiced emotions. Teetering on the brink of revelation, silence engulfed us, a heavy shroud where words became meaningless echoes. Upon entering, the atmosphere thickened, crackling with an electric tension, as if we had been teetering on the edge for an eternity, and now the floodgates had finally shattered, unleashing a torrent of raw emotion. The days that followed were engulfed in a suffocating haze. Daniel hovered nearby, his presence a constant tension, always poised to seize fleeting moments to brush against me or capture a glance when he believed the world was oblivious. I begged myself to hold back, to withdraw, to put a definitive stop to whatever this tumultuous situation could become. Yet, every time I gazed upon him, an overwhelming void surged within me, a haunting resonance of our shared desolation. We were like shadows of one another, mirroring the same profound emptiness that consumed us both. It was as if turning away was not an option, nor did I desire to escape the magnetic pull of our intertwined fates. As shadows consumed the room, I lay in bed beside Andrew, my mind racing with the intensity of our connection, each heartbeat echoing in perfect harmony with the rhythm of his breath. My mind spiraled to Daniel in the next room, the memory of his hands igniting a fire within me, his breath infusing my very essence with vitality. I closed my eyes, curling up within myself like a serpent, coiling tighter with each heartbeat, the tension thickening in the air around me. I realized with a sinking feeling that the present was a path fraught with peril, one that could lead to inevitable ruin. I was acutely aware of it. The circumstances were deeply flawed, and I felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness as the discord between us intensified, swelling with each agonizing day until it finally exploded in a fierce and dramatic confrontation. It unfolded in the shadows of a late evening as I labored relentlessly in the heart of Andrew. As I drifted into a restless slumber, Daniel and I were thrust into the kitchen, our hands submerged in the turbulent waters of washing dishes, a desperate attempt to drown out the chaos swirling in my mind. A chilling presence loomed just behind me, a silent predator in the treacherous game of shadows. I found him staring at me, just as he had on that fateful day at the beach. "Daniel," I whispered urgently, desperate to divert him from his perilous path. Yet, he drew nearer, closing the distance with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine as I felt the heat of his breath whispering against my neck. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling with urgency. It consumes my thoughts relentlessly. I was gripped by an overwhelming sense of paralysis. My heart pounded with an intensity that threatened to explode from my chest. I intended to command him to stop in his tracks to prevent his departure. He stormed back to his room, determined to abandon me, but an unyielding force within me refused to let go. I gazed into his eyes, the weight of my words hanging in the air, and unleashed the one phrase I should have kept buried deep within. a confession that mirrored my inability to let go. In that fleeting moment, the world shattered around us, and Daniel loomed too near, his breath a searing heat against my neck. "Mom," he breathed, his voice heavy with a weight that hung in the air, thick with unspoken fears. I turned, and his hands gripped my waist, yanking me fiercely toward him. His lips collided with mine, a hesitant spark igniting into a fierce blaze, and I responded with urgency, the intensity of him consuming everything around us. It was wrong, yet it surged through her like a desperate gasp for breath after years of relentless suffocation. In a heart-stopping moment of desperation, I surrendered to his kiss, disregarding the weight of moral consequences and the stark reality of Andrew, along with the fragile life we had fought so hard to create. What began as a fleeting moment has morphed into an unbearable burden of shame, a crushing weight that I can no longer endure. The circumstances remain unyielding, yet they do not deter my resolve. It is this very reality that ignites the most profound terror within me. Each day, I watch my husband, Andrew, and my daughter, Ava, consumed by a haunting oblivion, their eyes blind to the dark reality that surrounds them, and I am left to grapple with the weight of their ignorance. The deepening fissures within our family seem to stem from their relentless obsession with their lives, rendering them blind to my silent battles. Or maybe I have merely become a master at concealing my pain. Yet, I am painfully aware that this dire situation cannot last forever. Endless secrets have a tendency to surface, and when they do, the consequences will shatter everything I've struggled to keep hidden. I have relentlessly convinced myself that this is a grave error, that Daniel deserves far superior treatment, and that I, too, I'm worthy of so much more. Yet, every time his hand brushes against mine, or his gaze ensnares me with that smoldering intensity, I tremble. I realize it's a line we can never uncross, a deep chasm tearing through the life I painstakingly constructed with Andrew. Yet, in Daniel's touch, I discover a spark long buried, a searing warmth I desperately yearn for, even as it rends my very soul. He ignites a fire within my soul, a surge of energy that I haven't experienced in what feels like an eternity, perhaps never at all, and that is the undeniable reality I am forced to face. I find myself on the brink of uncertainty, grappling with the weight of this dilemma that threatens to consume me. In the depths of my turmoil, where uncertainty looms like a dark cloud, I feel an urgent need to unveil my story, clinging to the hope that somehow someone possesses the elusive key to unraveling this crisis. I find myself ensnared in a predicament I never anticipated, a storm of chaos swirling around me. I implore you, lend your strength to help me break free from this turmoil before it spirals into the abyss of irreversibility. I implore you to share any wisdom you possess, particularly if you have endured a similar ordeal or know someone who has faced such a harrowing experience. I eagerly await your response, and let your reply serve as a dire warning to all who dare to cross this line. In the suffocating grip of solitude, one may unearth harrowing depths previously unimagined. Do not allow yourself to stray as deeply into darkness as I have.